Well, there we go, live
Hey,
and now recording. We are here with Bob Tassone and Port Insurance. And Bob, thank you for joining me here today so that we can share information with the world about your uh, services with insurance and financial planning that is part of the asset protection world and protecting yourself from liabilities. And I'm here as John Polson with the Memory Group, EXP Realty in Williamsburg, to help my clients and colleagues and friends and family to know as much as I can to help them make smart decisions and avoid costly mistakes with real estate. So asset protection, protecting yourself with your proper insurance policy and coverage is part of that. And you have all that stuff wrapped up. And I want to give you a chance to discuss a little bit today, a little bit more with some insightful things that you have for some folks. So tell me what you've got today that you want to talk about. I think you've got some specific things that you're working on.
well, all right. Good morning. I'm working on something for um, a, not a client, but somebody that I've run into that's a referral from actually up on the northern neck of Virginia.
Right on.
And this individual had a bad windstorm back in 2021, and a big old tree fell on his house, really did a lot of damage. It did about $200,000 worth of damage on his house. And of course, when you have a claim, that's when you really find out how good your insurance policy is. And he's not super duper happy with the policy that he has. And so he's looking around for something better. And he's got a lot of different concerns because he's on tidal water.
Okay.
Okay. He's not on the bay, but he is on tidal water. And there are some companies that just won't do that at all.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And then, and it's not because they're afraid of the water rising. That's not something that's covered by homeowners insurance. But whenever you're on tidal water, they're concerned about the exposure to wind, which is what happened to him. He had a wind claim. So, but the other thing that happens is, I mean, he's in a rural area, so he's in a rural protection class is what we call it, and so that can limit some companies because there's not a paid fire department waiting to come to his house if there's a fire. It's volunteer. That raises the cost of insurance and also the concern for the insurance company. And then also the fact that he had a claim.
There's a lot of properties. That's a lot of properties in our area.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, all you got to do is you go up to Charles City or New Kent, and you're in those types of areas where there's volunteer fire departments. And volunteer firemen are very, very good, very dedicated. Nothing against a volunteer fire department, but the difference is with the volunteers that they're not sitting in the station. So the response time is usually longer because they go to the station if they're not there. And then if you're in a rural area, you're covering longer distances anyway.
Right.
So response time overall is longer in a rural area. And of course, fire can do a lot of bad damage in a short amount of time. So anyway, and then the fact that he's had a major claim, there are some companies that just don't want to insure you because you had a big claim. That's part of their underwriting. They don't accept people that have had claims recently.
Wow.
So anyway, I'm looking into things for him, but he's asking me about different coverages. And one of the things that I explained to him was the difference between an actual cash value and a replacement cost. And so the example that I like to use is, let's say that you have a kitchen fire and your refrigerator is damaged by the fire.
Okay.
Okay. Now, John, you went out to Lowe's just a year ago and you bought this brand new, nice refrigerator. It cost you $3,000 for this refrigerator. But if you were going to put it on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or something, if you didn't like it, you wanted to sell it, it's just like a car. It depreciates. You can't sell it for what you paid for it.
Right.
So the actual cash value of that refrigerator today might be $1,500 if you were trying to sell it. Okay. Now, three or 4 years down the line, there's a fire in your kitchen, and so you've got a nice refrigerator that's damaged, but it's 3 or 4 years old, and so the $3,000 refrigerator, you could, if you were to sell it, if it was in good shape, you might get, excuse me, $1,500 for it. But if you have to buy a new one to replace it, it's going to cost $4,000. And so the replacement value is $4,000. The actual cash value is $1,500. And you want to have replacement value on your policy, not actual cash value.
That makes,
And it goes the same thing for fixing things around your house if there's damage from a windstorm or anything else.
so this sounds kind of obvious. I mean, it's as you're describing it, it sounds like, yes, you definitely would want to have replacement value, not cash value, but these are nuances in every insurance policy.
Yeah, you could have a policy that covers you for ACV, actual cash value. You see ACV, you don't even think about it. What does that mean? ACV is actual cash value.
Good to know. Good to
And
know.
that can be a much lesser amount than replacement cost.
Okay. So the thing up there in the northern neck where you're looking to provide him with a comparison of policy, there obviously, it sounds like there's a pretty significant
Yeah, so now
comparison
I'm having to
making.
look around and find something for him. And he's already been declined by 3 companies.
Okay.
And so I'm working on some more.
Okay. So you have the ability to shop around and find
Yeah.
coverages even in a challenging situation where
Oh,
coverages
yeah,
are
but
not.
unfortunately, the more I look around, the higher the premium goes.
Okay.
And so it's nice to do it right the first time if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I think that was the point that you really wanted to bring in today is when you're trying to cover yourself, don't always just assume that you're going with the cheapest
Right.
policy is not necessarily the one that's going to cost you the least. In fact, that cheap policy could end up costing you more in the end if the coverages aren't what you really need in the time of need.
Yeah. And that goes for any type of insurance, but that's another day, another story.
Right, but that is a relevant part of the conversation, and I know you have to deal with that, all the time when you've got these coverages that you are trying to help people make sure that they are covered, and it's an intriguing conversation because there is a balancing act between cost and benefit, and I want my clients to know that they can be protected, and when they buy a home that their home is protected, their assets are protected, and that their liabilities are minimized so that they if they have a loss that doesn't hurt them so badly. We want people to come in and through a situation and be made whole so that their lives aren't dramatically or negatively affected by these events that we don't have control of. So I hope that you're able to find something for that individual, and I'm sure
I'm working on it. So anyway, I mean, a lot of people pay attention to the deductible, but with a major loss like that, whether there's $1,000 deductible or 2,000 or 2,500, whatever, really doesn't matter that much compared to $200,000 of loss.
Yeah, right.
So pay attention to the coverage on the bad thing that can happen. I recommend a higher deductible because I don't want you to make a claim for something that's minor because the insurance company is going to wind up getting it back from you anyway.
Yeah, right. So they'll increase your premium
Yeah,
for these smaller claims, right? So okay,
yeah.
okay. Well, in that regard, you are able to help guide somebody in the event that they have a small event, right? So say something happens and, I need to call somebody, they can call you and kind of get a plan for what they should do, right? If something
Oh,
small,
yeah.
right?
It's a good time to call your agent if you have kind of like a borderline claim, and just talk to the agent and say, should I put a claim in for this? And,
Yeah,
because sometimes I'll talk people out of making a claim, and it's not that I don't want the insurance company to pay, but the reality is if you make a claim on your car insurance or your home insurance, it's it's going to go into a system where no matter where you go for a while, it's going to cause your premium to be more,
right.
even if you change companies. And so you wind up paying for it.
you're financing your future, in other words.
Yeah.
In a sense. Well,
Yeah.
that is good to know. I appreciate your sharing those insights and knowledge about your coverages and insurance that are available. I know that in each of the in each of the types of coverage, I want to give you a chance to talk about the types of coverage that are important and people should have. So we'll talk about that in future sessions here when we get on Wednesday mornings. Thank you for again taking the time to visit with me this morning and share some insights about covering yourself properly with the right kind of coverages. Bob, you had something that you wanted to share?
Well, I don't know. I watch your live with Kevin,
All right.
and he always has a joke, and I'm not much of a joke teller, but I figured I have to do something to keep up with Kevin Onizek.
Okay. And I know you know Kevin.
And so we have a horse, and so we are always thinking about horses, but this particular horse was around a long time ago. He was in existence back maybe 100 years ago when horses used to pull around a wagon that had big blocks of ice on the back. And so anyway, he would haul the ice around, and it was backbreaking work, up and down hills and all of the stuff that he had to do. When he got back to the stable, he's talking to one of the other horses. I guess the other horse had a different job. And he said, this up and down with all of this ice it's just killing me. I don't know what to do. And the other horse says to him, well, if this is really being hard on you, why don't you talk to your owner and see if he can give you a break, And the horse says to him, you want me to talk to my owner about this? He said, if my owner knew that I could talk, he'd have me yelling, ice, ice, ice. Sorry, John. That's it.
All right. All right, Bob. That one, we'll see how that one flies. The horse maybe needs a new job.
Till next time.
Till next time. All right. Well, listen, this has been great. I do appreciate you sharing your knowledge and wisdom about insurance, and appreciate your being on this call again this morning. And everybody needs to get in touch with you. Your contact information is here in the description. And I'm glad to have another call with you coming up again. And hopefully we'll get back on again next week and more to come. So thank you so much, Bob. Have a great day.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.